Hello again, and welcome to Faith, Family, and Politics. I'm your host, Joshua Cummins.
We're going to have a really big show today.
Yeah, we are. That's our good friend, Louis Rodriguez. He's here in studio with us today. Welcome back to this studio, Lou.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure, and it's a very special day, and I'm going to get to the reason why that is just in a minute. But we also have this other guy over here across from me. You know him, you love him.
He's at the green mic. What does it mean? What does it mean?
For those listening on audio, if you know about the green mic, we do have the Laughing Libertarian, Alan McFarland, sitting at that green mic, but it doesn't mean what you think it means. I wish it did, and one day it will. I've already foretold this. So many of us have, but until then, he's just facilitating the seat and hanging out.
Right. It's a comfy seat. So, you expect someone to sit here for 30 minutes talking Jesus. So it's got to be pretty comfy. Anyway, thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for having me on. Of course, my spiel, like, share, subscribe. We know you have. If you have already, make sure you hit the bell. And make sure to what? Comment.
Oh, yeah. So, and you can find us on Facebook. You can see us there. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Rumble.
No, that's too much.
Oh, sorry. And
not Rumble, just that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anywhere you download your audio podcasts.
That's better.
I had to make it a little more silky smooth after that, right? Now to the reason why it is a special week. We have a special guest. His name is Macil Duncan, and he's the Patriot pastor. Let's hit that stinger, Cam. Welcome, Macil.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Fantastic.
I'm trying to see if we're showing. We're trying to work out the logistics here. So every time that we're talking, we're flip flopping because I haven't figured out how to digitally make it happen. So Cam is actually having to physically move the camera back and forth between.
He's sweating.
Yeah,
Cam's sweating right now. 2-button system.
So Macil's going to do the faith portion for us today, and he's going to bring the message. I've also made a title screen for that. If you wouldn't mind bringing up that graphic real quick. And Macil, would you go ahead and read that off for us?
The 7 things you can practice, and the Bible says you won't stumble.
Nice. All right.
So my question.
Yeah.
My question is that, are we doing this so that I can't actually interrupt him?
Hey, if you raise your hand, Cameron's got to let you have a question.
I'm just saying I'm so bad about interrupting everything. I just thought maybe you were like, haha, we facilitated that word. We facilitated a way to make sure Alan's quiet.
English is hard today, huh, Alan?
It is. It's all right. I'll take extra languages.
All right, let's pass it back to Macil so he can, if you wouldn't mind, Macil, can you lead us in prayer over the message?
Do it too, buddy.
And then kind of kick it off.
Hey, Heavenly Father, we just want to talk to you and ask you, Abba, Father, help us right now. Folks are tired. It's a Friday night. But God, we're here to rock and roll, bring some truth, enlighten, encourage, and have some humor at the same time. And Lord, I pray for this country, and I ask you, God, to intercede in a mighty way. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. I like that.
Hey, guys, I've been pastoring quite a while, and a passage that just jumps out to me that helps guys, because a lot of guys out there have problems with things in life. And I'm reminded of Allen Iverson when he was asked about practice. Do you remember in the ESPN, it says practice? And he made light of practice as if, hey, he's a superstar. He didn't need to practice. And I think that's the problem with a lot of, especially men in the church. They're thinking, practice? I don't need to practice anything. We're told in 2 Peter, though, chapter 1 through 10, there are 7 things. It says if you practice these things, you won't stumble. Now, if you think about that, that's pretty awesome. And it's called the divine nature of God. And I'm just going to buzz through some of this for you. But it talks about the true knowledge of God. And for those that want to expose themselves to the magnificent promises of God, these are the 7 things. Now, check this out. If you'll practice these things, he says you won't stumble. Now, for this very reason, also applying all diligence in your faith, supply number 1 is moral excellence. That's the first one. Moral excellence. Number 2 is knowledge. Okay. After that, knowledge is self-control. And after self-control is perseverance. And after perseverance is godliness. And after godliness is brotherly kindness, and in your brotherly kindness is love. These are 7 things, and they sound an awful lot like the fruits of the Spirit. But it goes on to say, for if these qualities are yours and are increasing, they render you neither useless nor unfruitful in the true knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. For he who lacks these qualities is blind or short-sighted, and having forgotten his purification from his former sins. But verse 10, this is the kicker. Therefore, brethren, be all the more diligent to make certain about his calling and choosing you, for as long as you practice these things, you will never stumble. And that's the thing I challenge men all the time. I've got a men's group on Tuesday mornings. We meet at a restaurant here in town, and I'm taking them through an 8-week, I have 8 sessions I spend with men. And if they'll commit to go through these 8 sessions with me, my thing is I say, guys, I'll take you through these 8 sessions and help you become a better man of faith. But you got to promise me that you'll take another man through and take him through these 8 sessions to the best of your ability. And it's something that's missing in the church is called discipleship. Because Jesus said in the Great Commission, he said, go therefore into all the world and grow big mega churches. No. He said, go there to all the world and make the coolest songs and see if you can't have rock concerts on Sunday. No. He said, go in all the world and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, baptizing takes time, or discipleship. And if you go look in the book of Acts, there was a time when Paul was on one of his journeys, and he came across some of the disciples of John the Baptist, and they were speaking evil of the way because they were not understanding what it meant, because they thought John had been a failure. He had been in prison, lost his head. Jesus had died, because they didn't have what we have today, media. So a lot of folks felt defeated. So Paul spent time with them in the school of Gamaliel, and he would rent it out during the hot part of the day, because in that culture, many took naps. And so in the heat of the day, he rented out the school. And if you go check that out, just for time's sake, I'll just sum it up. It said in 2 years, he spent 2 years with those guys, and it said all of Asia heard of the gospel.
Wow.
So this is the thing. I'll wrap up my little moment is, guys, if we'll practice these 7 things, and what I mean by practice, you got to get good. I don't know if you guys remember Jeff Hornacek when he was he was a basketball NBA star. When he would shoot his free throws, he would wipe his forehead 3 times, and folks thought that was an unusual practice. Well, that was his way of waving to his kids at home. He had 3 kids to tell them Daddy loves him. But he also did it to help him block out the crowd. He said when he practiced that ritual of waving to his kids 3 times, wiping his forehead, he had the highest free throw percentage of all those at that time in the NBA, because he practiced it and he put his family before the NBA career. Many men today are having problems practicing. And I'm going to say this, I'm a pastor, but I'll tell you what, too many pastors are worried about the ABCs, attendance, baptisms, and cash. All they're worried about is how many's in the building, how many we baptize so we can get the numbers, and how much is in the offering plate. You know, ABC, attendance, baptisms, cash. We need to worry about the discipleship and teaching folks the word of God, but not in a way that's boring. Man, God's word is it's awesome. Yeah. Experience it, enjoy it, and digest it, but practice it.
I was gonna say real quick you're talking to the choir here, or preaching to the choir here. We've actually made that point several times on this show, and I'm glad that it's being reiterated by someone who's just only seen a handful of episodes of our show, and of course that we're our fandom goes back and forth between us, but it's just kind of cool. It's like validation, because it's like, okay, if you've read the Bible and you've seen that truth, and we've read the Bible and we've seen that truth, then I mean that's kind of equate to something, right? But
and if I'm a heathen and listen to both of your truths, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Alan has even followed that when we actually, perfect example of exactly what you're talking about as a man named Joel Osteen. And, there's a guy, that it was coming here off and on and to watch the show and everything live, in studio. And, we started bad-mouthing Joel Osteen and he was ready to leave. But it was like, because he's focused on all the wrong things. He's not, like you said, he's not practicing the right things.
The man holds the Bible. He never opens it.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you had like the really cool tree metaphor that we had on it. Was it episode 2? I think it was.
Sure.
Yeah, it was great. He was like, he plants some trees, but I don't remember what it was, but like it was spot on that day. If you guys get a chance,
It's on a YouTube short somewhere.
Yeah, it's on a YouTube short. You got anything to add real quick, Lou, before we pass it back to Macil?
No.
All right. Back to you.
Hey, man, I just want to encourage believers out there, because a lot of folks are losing faith in the church. Barna Research just released a study 2 weeks ago saying that only 4% of Americans have a biblical worldview. 34% have not darkened the door since COVID and said they won't be back. And they're also saying that the value of human life dropped 10% during the pandemic or plandemic, whichever you see it. And but the sad thing is, among Christians, the value of human life dropped 12%. So among the church, they've lost a more appreciation for the value of life, because people got really put out, discouraged, and churches shut down. I didn't shut my church down, dudes. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not a vaxxer. My body, my choice. They don't tell me what to do. And my church was not shut down, not one day, 1 second. The doors were open, the word was open, the altar was open. We had a food pantry ministry that exploded because in Chattanooga, all the food distribution shut down but ours. So we went from feeding 300 family units to over 2,000. Wow. And now we're feeding over 4,000 people one time a month. We go downtown and we feed the homeless in the tent cities and the veterans sleeping on the street that defended this country. And the reason we do that is because our purpose statement at Apostolic Baptist is taking Jesus as he is to people as they are. The church isn't meant to meet in big buildings and huddle. We're meant to be in the streets. Jesus said, go into the highways and compel them to come in. Yeah. Okay? To compel them means you don't just say, hey, you want to come to church. Compel means to be as convincing and persuasive and engaging. And you got to go spend time with the people. And when you go downtown and you meet with homeless people, or you go and do some of the things we do, and you go outside the walls into the streets, there's a discouraged group out there, guys. And so many will tell me, everyone's a Christian in America, by the way. You know, you talk to people, oh, yeah, I'm a Christian. And I'm not trying to doubt that, but they're very dissatisfied with the church. And one thing I told our church my first Sunday 6 years ago, I said, if this church ceased to exist, would the community weep our absence? Would they even know we were dead and gone? Well, I think now they would.
I think the charities would for sure. Yeah, the charities would for sure. I think it's like 70%. I think it's right around that 70%, or it might maybe even more than that. Christian organizations are charities, are the charities of the world. Like name me one other faith or just belief system in general, not even having to be with a religion, but just a belief system in general that is that generous, that is willing to give up, money, time, resources. You're just not going to find it anywhere else. I think there's a look from you, Alan.
Oh, I was giving you a look because Buddhists do all the time. Chinese people give up money, time, and resources to their government all the time.
Not willingly. Not willingly. And as a matter of fact, and we pray for our brothers and sisters in China, because their persecution knows no bounds. I think Louis and I has had this discussion before where it's like, man, I feel bad for them over there, because they, a lot of times if they get like one page of the Bible, that's what they memorize. That's what they hold on to. That's the piece of the word that they have. and they meet in basements, and they have to squirrel away, or they're going to be done away with, gotten rid of. They're just they're not welcomed in that communist Marxist society that Xi Jinping likes to run. Anything else to add to that, Lou? All right, back to Macil.
Well, I just want to do a shameless plug for my radio show, the Macil Duncan radio show, 3 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. You can catch us on the Nuga Radio Network. We're broadcasted into Georgia, Tennessee. We've got stations in New Jersey and Alabama covering, sharing the show now, and we're on many social media sites. But back real quick to the church, guys. The church is the people, and it's not a building. And a lot of folks are seeing that the home churches are exploding because there's dissatisfaction with organized religion. And for instance, I've been a Southern Baptist most of my life, but when they forced the missionaries to take vaccinations and said, if you don't take the shots, you're fired. I made some calls. I'm not a complainer, but I called up some leaders, said, guys, this isn't right. I don't support you. And you're going to see, I won't be coming to your annual meetings. And if you're going to fire people because they don't line up with ouchie Fauci, then I'm out of here myself. And because I think everyone got so enamored by Dr. Fauci. I mean, they put their left foot in, did the hokey pokey, and turned themselves around. Anything the dude said. I mean, I got friends that in part of their service, they were reading Fauci and all these health concerns when they did open, or the few times they were open. And I had folks say, did you enforce mask wearing and all that? I said, we had them at the door, but no, I didn't enforce it. I'm not going to make anybody wear a mask. I'm not going to make anybody wash their hands. Just like I'm not going to make anybody take a shot. But if you want to, that's fine. But we're not going to make anybody do anything. It's your choice.
Yeah.
And the house of God should be a house of freedom, and it should not be. But think about this, dudes. They shut down the churches, the gyms, and hair salons, things that gave folks encouragement. But they kept open the liquor stores and the nudie clubs, right? Yeah. They were essential.
Yeah, and
you need to go watch some woman do your lap dance. That was going to help you. Or go get your liquor. But, buddy, don't go to church. Don't get your hair cut. Don't go to the gym. Become a fatty McFatty and just sit on your couch and watch Fauci and all their doom and gloom. Yeah, and people fell for it, man.
And they kept open the big box stores. And the thing with the church in particular, like, because I was an avid every Sunday church goer, but with the exception of a handful of churches here local, because I mean I like to kind of hop around, and I have a couple of churches that I go to more regular than others, but I like to kind of hop around and just kind of see where God leads me that Sunday. But with the pandemic, so to speak, when that kind of came down, it was like, man, I need to be able to talk about God. And I need to be able to do it in an open forum, and that's it was one of the things that when all of us started discussing what we were going to do with like this show in particular, ended up, Alan said it best. He goes to church on Friday nights.
Yeah, I go to church every Friday night, right here,
right when we
in the studio
when we record. This is where it's at, and
mostly means I just fall asleep in the pew.
It says where two or more gathered. You guys got three. You got Alan, Louis, Josh. Not bad company there, and that's the problem. We get so enamored that we have to be in big numbers all the time. It's really think Jesus had the 12 disciples, but inside the 12 he had the 3. And inside the 3, he had the one that was his closest. So, even Jesus practiced, personal friendships and small group encounter and accountability. So you 3 guys get to hold each other accountable. I think that's probably a cool thing.
Yeah, we regularly do hold each other accountable. I see that on a regular basis. I find myself leaning on both of these guys quite a bit, and then I don't know if they feel like they get to lean on me at all. I can't speak for them, but I do know that I lean on them a lot. I can definitely say that. What about you, Lou?
I do. I lean on you.
I barely even know you two.
Oh, say that again for the microphone so I could hear you, Lou, if you don't mind.
I lean on you a lot. I depend on you on a lot of things.
Yeah, and we're accountable to each other, right? Like, because you've called me on my garbage a few times. You're like, dude, that's not right. Like, Josh, what are you doing, man? That's not cool. So I always appreciate that, and I think that like you said, Macil, that's just what good brothers do. I mean, these guys are family. Sterling's taking care of his wife right now, but he and Cam is over there on the producer's desk. But they're in the same family, man. We're all accountable to each other.
You know, I had a mega pastor contact me and tell me, Macil, because he made fun of me first because I don't take shots. I was not a vaxxer before. Okay, I'm never been a big fan of the shots, but he apologized. He goes, Macil, I made fun of you. And I just knew you were going to get arrested or something. And I said, well, dude, most of the Bible was written in prison. But he told me later he regrets taking the 3 shots because he's been sick ever since. He regrets shutting his church down because they dropped in numbers. They used to run 13,000, and now they're down to like 8. And he doesn't know if some of them will come back. And see, that's the thing. I don't think pastors realized they were so worried about upsetting Fauci and the government, they weren't worried about upsetting God. See, that's where we go back to practice. If you practice these things, moral excellence, just take that one right there, guys. Think about moral excellence. This country is acting, I mean, we're going to have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. Look what Target, just alone, the satanic symbols and the shirts.
Oh yeah, that's coming.
And all the gay agenda, and people are they're just bowing to it, and now you're seeing folks finally push back. You got Anheuser-Busch, it's down $27 billion. You got Target down $12 billion. You got all these others in decline. Walmart's in decline. Chick-fil-A is starting to hit a nosedive. Sports Illustrated. You just start going down the list of all these folks. Kohl's. They didn't expect unity among the common sense people, the salt of the earth. Oh, yeah. And guys, this is what I tell folks all the time on my show. They may steal the election from us, but the one thing they can't steal is your vote with our feet and with our pocketbook. We can walk in and out of places, for instance, Starbucks. I won't pee in a Starbucks, not much less go in there. I won't even drive through the parking lot of Target. I refuse to share oxygen with them.
They only have squatty potties at Starbucks.
and that's I tell folks all the time, don't even go in the parking lots. Man, avoid those guys. Let them really sense, because there's nothing more embarrassing to a big box store than an empty freaking parking lot and an empty store.
Yeah,
and that's what's happening at Target, guys.
Real quick, what was that, Alan? What did they got there?
Oh, I said, yeah, no reason to pee at the Starbucks. So they only have squatty potties anyway. But, beyond that, I was going to say, are you sure you want to have that men's group meet every week during Pride Month? Just say it.
You're not for sure if they'll be, what is a man?
I played on my show. You know what Pride Month is in our state? June 1st is when Tennessee was welcomed into the Union. So our Pride Month here is Rocky Top, and I played Rocky Top off and on my show, my 3-hour show today. And I said that's what Pride Month is for us here in Tennessee. We love our balls, but
the volunteers, yeah.
Pride comes before the fall, my friend.
It sure does. And we're talking about this pride. We're going to be talking about that in the political portion for sure. We'll be touching down on that. But definitely the people voting with their dollar, we're seeing that. But where that relates back to faith is certainly people are saying, "Hey, man, you have your lifestyle. You said you were going to keep it in your bedroom, and that's your thing. In America, you're free to do that in your free time. I just don't want it in my living room. I don't want it on billboards all over the town.
I don't want to have to explain it to my kid.
Yeah.
And it's not so much love. I don't care about that. I don't want to explain your fetish.
Yeah.
Your
choice of friction, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to explain that to my child.
Well, under Bill Clinton,
switching back
you
there,
guys
Cam.
you guys may have known this, but under Bill Clinton, the when the Monica Lewinsky thing happened, the most searched topic on Google for 3 months was oral sex, because so many kids were clueless. What is oral sex? Because we still had a little bit of governorship on what was being taught in the schools and what was being out there, but because the media made such a point to be descriptive of the sex he was having with Monica Lewinsky, and the stained dress and the cigars, and people started using their imagination, if you will, and oral sex, and then that just helped blow into the gay movement, because that's their big thing. And
I do have to correct you on just one thing there, real quick, Macil. Now we know that 2020 was the fairest and safest election we've ever had, right? I mean, 81 million votes, most popular president in U.S. history, right?
I wouldn't contend it.
I mean, that's what they say. It was the fairest and safest, and we're not allowed to contend with it because someone said so in power, I think.
You've been talking to Sean Hannity?
Yeah.
Sean, the traitor Hannity, saying that now.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are saying it. Have you seen the new song that came out? I played on my show, 80 Million Votes My AWS by it's using Carrie Lake and her quotes.
Oh, nice.
It's a hilarious song. You got to play it. Go to YouTube and type in song 81 Votes My, and you'll see it.
Heine.
Yeah, you're Heine. And I tried to bleep out.
Alan's rubbing his forehead. He doesn't like when I edit things.
I missed a few on my show today, so if anyone goes and listens, I'll say, that preacher played a cuss word. Well, like they've never heard it. But anyway, the song describes all the illegal activity during the election. And you got 2,000 Mules, the documentary, that if you go watch that, they could have gone even deeper, but they did stuff that could not be, but if you go watch that, guys, the beginning, all those guys, Larry Elder, conservative guys, PragerU founder, they all were still acting like, well, maybe the election wasn't stolen. But then they interview them after showing the presentation. Because this is what happens, man, and I don't mind saying this. You got a bunch of wussies out here in the name of the church. They're so afraid of calling a spade or doing what they know that's right, or saying the right thing. Everyone wants to be socially acceptable. We're worried about being liked too much. I want to have all my likes. Who freaking cares if you're going to lie to get the likes?
Alan's got something real quick, Macil.
Oh, this is a really good time to look at you guys out there in the world and say, hey, please share, subscribe, like us.
Yeah, because sharing
sharing
is caring.
Your success, guys, isn't measured on how many view your show. Your success
we know
don't let them brainwash you into thinking if
shameless
you don't
plug.
have so many views or likes, you're not success. You're a success, guys. You're doing a great job.
Oh, shucks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I like your show on demons, by the way. That was a good one.
Oh yeah, Cameron just did the fist pump in the air because I'll tell you, Sterling. I know that's something that he's wanted to do a deep dive into for a very long time, and angels and demons, because it's well, like we said on the show, it's just so not something that not commonly brought up in the church. You just don't see too many churches actually talking about that particular subject. I don't know, and we don't know why it's shied away from. Why do they shy away from something that is definitely there? I mean, something that's going to potentially influence you on the demon side, something that's going to entities that are potentially deliver your messages, on the angel side, or even protect you. That these things are not talked about, and I'm not for sure why. Maybe it's just because people get confused, like they're new in the faith, and they're like, "Well, is an angel, is that God?" And that kind of thing. I understand where they might want to shy away from that if that's their way of thinking, but it's just like not even on a Wednesday night where you got your regulars.
Well, the church guys got away, as I told you, they worried about attendance, baptisms, and cash. Mm-hmm. The ABCs. They didn't worry about discipleship. We did not. There's three things that the church stayed away from for years. They didn't want to talk about the Holy Spirit because they're afraid of people speaking in tongues or getting too excited. They didn't talk about sex. So we let the other side do all the talking about sex. But when they talk about things we don't agree with, we get mad. But we let them do all the talking. Mm-hmm. And the third thing the church doesn't teach is how to get off birth control. Too many Christians are on birth control. They don't know how to reproduce and share their faith. Those are the three weaknesses, I think, of the last decade or two of the established church.
And that third one,
afraid of those things.
That third one being the most important. The next generation, because I know that Alan can contest to this. It's like, say, hey, he's raising his daughter the best he knows how with the moral values that most likely he learned most of them from at least some kind of biblical knowledge, right? Because it's generally where we get our idea of morality from. I mean, regardless of whether or not someone happens to be all in on the faith, they do get the morality of it. That's our basis for morality. And that next generation being able to pass those values down, that's the most important part of it, is being able to pass those values down. And where we're getting caught up in nowadays where people don't want to pass that down. They don't even want to have kids. They say, I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for that. Now they might be in a situation where, like my wife and I, we just haven't yet. We just haven't had kids yet. And we want them. And maybe adoption will happen one day for us. Maybe we'll conceive. Who knows? It's in God's hands. But, that next generation is very important. So that's why I'm always talking to my nieces and nephews, like, making sure that I'm trying to figure out the best way I can pass down those values, to pass down the good book in any way, shape, or form, even if sometimes it's just the morality of it.
A lot of times it's about people don't want to have kids is because things are going up, kids are being expensive, and a lot of people can't afford it, and not enough people are making enough money to support those kids, and that's why a lot of them don't want to have kids, and there's a lot of them that do want to have kids and can't.
I mean, the most important thing to me, guys, is that good people with good morals have kids, because the other side's going to neuter theirs. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure they taper their side off while we make sure we put out good, solid human beings into the world.
Yeah. But you got to also make sure that you be able to support that kid so he don't suffer like a lot of these poor kids do out there and start robbing and stealing,
Maybe so. I could say, but, we grew up pretty poor and maybe we'd gotten into some trouble that we shouldn't have, but
we figured it out.
But we I think, ultimately we had pretty good moral guidances in our life to help us along the way. And
if you had that, but not everybody has that.
Not everybody has that. That's true.
Very true.
And that's why, just like he said, Macil's very first point, I think was very important, was that moral. Remind me of the word, Macil. Remind me of that word.
Moral excellence.
Moral excellence. Exactly. Yes. And if you can get that instilled in the next generation, you're gonna raise a lot of very good, productive members of society, but also people that know how to love and care for each other and not destroy just because someone has a different point of view.
The way I see it, if you could be moral or a saint or whatever, but if you can't afford to raise that kid with the way prices are, rent, doctors' bills, and everything, it's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard.
And you're going to make that kid suffer. It's best that you have the funds, you plan it, and bring that kid up right, and don't let him suffer by trying to fight for what he needs to get.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, man. I'm picking up what you're putting down. It is nice to know that you have that peace of mind and you're taking care of the next generation in the best way possible. And financially so is one of the big things that the next generation is just not getting supported with, especially in the broadest part of America right now. I think most of America, I think, is in poverty. Am I getting the percentages correct on that?
I mean, probably right now, but we can't use the word broad in any kind of way.
Oh, that's right.
It's not okay anymore.
Are you sure? Because they don't even know what a woman is.
We don't know. Like, Josh, why'd you do that to me? I was just going to say that. Anyway, we haven't talked to Macil.
Yeah.
He's way more important than us on the show because nobody wants to hear us anymore.
He's our special guest.
We're just special.
Let me tell you guys the saddest verse in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament, Judges 2:10. It says, after the whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. And what had happened was when Joshua and them went to the promised land, they didn't finish. They didn't clear out the land like God had told them to.
Yeah.
And then they let idol worship and sexual perversion got in. And before you know it, even though they birthed a new nation in the promised land, just like America, we're seeing that happen in our country. We drop our guard and we think, hey, we don't need to practice. We don't need to be faithful. We don't need to go to church every Sunday. We don't need to read our Bibles anymore. That was then, this is now. And before you know it, you slowly erode the principles and the things that protect it, because the Bible calls us salt and light. In Matthew 5, Jesus, because salt's a preservative. And as Christians, we're meant to preserve the culture. And light is to expose bad things in the dark. But what's happened? The church is that with the Johnson Amendment and all the intimidation, we can't discuss politics anymore. We can't engage. We have to accept lifestyles. Even though the Bible calls them sin, we better accept them. And let's not cross any lines. Let's not make anybody mad. We can piss God off all we want because we don't have to see him right now. But let's not make anybody upset. And what we're raising up is a generation of biblical illiteracy. And it's impacting the culture because there's no moral values. There's no absolute truth. You can't get folks to agree on what's right and wrong anymore because the plumb line is gone.
Yep, and that's why we're fighting this culture war. That's why we started Revolver Broadcasting, because we decided we're all in on this. We don't just have this show. We have 5 other shows, Laughing Libertarian, Rodriguez Rants, Workout with Jesus Dudes, It Makes Sense podcast with, Danny Tippett, why Christian living makes the most sense in the world today. We even do another show called A Few Shots where it's quite a few of us in rotation here, where we poke at the politicians because they have it coming, and if they're not, because they don't care about us. But where we're trying to turn that back with alternative media. I think alternative media is going to be, it is the wave of the future. I think that's why this show and all the other shows that we have on Revolver Broadcasting and the mini shows that we're going to add to it are ultimately going to be hyper successful. This is going to be a media juggernaut one of these days. I'm predicting it right now. And one of these days we're going to actually look back on this episode and go, oh yeah, Josh called it right there on that special episode with Macil. And are we still on there, Cam?
What's that?
Oh, we got a notification there on Macil's phone.
Oh,
what's happening there?
China has got $19.9 trillion in assets. America's at 25.3, and the next closest nation is Japan with 4.9. So United States 25.3, China's at 19.9, Japan's at 4.91. And you're saying, hey, that's explosive. And then you've got India at 3.37 and Germany at 4.31. But what they're not telling you is BlackRock Investments is at 10 trillion. Yeah. And then JP Morgan and Vanguard are at both 5 trillion. So between those three institutions that control the Federal Reserve, as you guys know, the Federal Reserve is a private bank. It's not federally controlled. That money controls things. Okay. And with the money controls, of course, the food, it controls, energy, it controls all these things. And I think what you're going to see happening in these next several months, if not years, as we start drifting towards a cashless society, Revelations 13 is going to come boom, big time. Because Revelations 13 says, you won't be able to do commerce without the mark of the beast. Yeah. And they've got the technology now. So my point is, our time is short. I see things happening, guys, right now. There's two things when they happen. I'm going to be like saying, hey, it's rock and roll time, because when they start building the temple, that's huge. And right now, you may have already heard in Dubai, they've got a thing called Chrislam. Have you guys heard of that? The three temples?
Yes.
Okay, they got, the Muslim.
But you can tell our audience for sure, yeah.
They got the Muslim mosque, they got a Catholic church, and they got a Jewish synagogue. But the Catholic Church is not allowed to have any cross, and you're not allowed to convert anyone to Christianity, but you can be converted to Muslim. But they're calling it Chrislam because of the seed of Abraham. Now, this might upset Trump folks out there, but you need to understand something. Donald Trump, because of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, talked Donald Trump into embracing the Abraham Accord. But what the Abraham Accord was trying to put Islam and Christians and the Jews, the children of Israel, into one, saying we're all just one under the same God. But if you're a Christian, you know what John 14 says. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. But a lot of folks get offended with that. They're saying, Macil, how do you know? They call him Allah, you call him Jesus. That's not the same thing, fellas. But that's where, because of lack of discipleship, worrying about the ABCs, attendance, baptisms, and cash, and not D, discipleship, you have a lot of folks in the name of Christ that are easily swayed because of money. And right now, because of the little chart I showed you, you guys probably know that the BRICS movement that started in 2003 between Brazil, Russia, India, and China, BRIC, and then they added South Africa. Well, then they've added Saudi Arabia. Okay, and then they've now got Egypt, and it looks like Germany is considering. Iran and other countries are wanting to join BRICS. BRICS is a direct challenge to the G7. And what's going to happen when BRICS continues like it's going and develops its own currency, the US dollar that's already going down is going to crash.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, Alan's more of our economics guy, but we've talked about crypto a few times on here as well. Those things seem to be going that direction as well, but because it is on the blockchain, so the government cannot dip their hands into it. But the bust of the U.S. dollar is coming. We do see that, but before it gets to that point, before we get into that one world government, before we get into the World Economic Forum doing their takeover and fulfilling their 2030 agenda, if you don't believe any of the stuff that I'm saying, guys that are out there, guys and gals that are out there watching, just look up 2030 agenda and just go down that rabbit hole for a little while. Don't spend more than 15 minutes on it though, because your brain will explode. But before we get to all that, I believe that this country has got one more Jesus revolution in it. I feel it in my bone marrow, man. That what was happening in that church, I believe it was in Kentucky.
The Ashbury Revival, it was a college campus.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think that was just the start of something that's turning in this country, where even if it's just for an age, even if it's just for a time, even if it ends before my life does, I see another Jesus revolution that's going to happen in this country, maybe even globally. I think it's really going to happen. I'm no prophet, obviously, but I do see that coming. I think that's for sure what we're going to have. We're going to have at least one more big push, and a lot of new Christians are going to come come to, they're going to know the Lord, and they're going to teach that to their children, and those will be the ones that see those last days potentially.
Well, it tells us in Revelation 13, as I said, that the Antichrist will come, and he'll be look like a guy of peace.
Yeah.
And that's what he's going to usher in, the 7 years of tribulation. But he's going to be loved. The world's going to just say, hey, this is the guy. He's the dude. And when they bring him before the people, and all the governments are going to capitulate to him, I believe that's where going cashless and taking the economy the way it's going, because right now it's going to get bad. And people think, hey, I want Jesus to come back. And they don't understand, biblically, before Jesus comes back, okay, things have got to get pretty much hell on earth. It's going to get really bad. And it says when the tribulation hits, it'll be, but then after the first 3.5 years, the last 3.5, it said if God had not shortened the days, people would not have survived it. And that people would cry out for the rocks to fall on them. So we think we've had a bad time thus far. We have no clue, because Christians will not be allowed to do commerce. And it says if you take the mark of the beast, you won't inherit eternal life. Now I've heard folks try to do gymnastics, saying, "Oh, you're saying that God would not allow me to provide for my family." He's telling you, don't take the mark of the beast. Now it could be the chips that different one, the ones that are going to go in the head. You may have heard Davos. They've talked about Klaus Schwab, that you won't need computers in the future, like we're used to. You won't need a monitor or keyboards. Everything will be inside the head, and there's chips I'm going to put in the back of your brain, and it will help control your thinking. I personally wonder if that's not the mark of the beast, because you'll surrender your soul. You won't think for yourself. And I don't know if that makes sense.
That could be potentially in technology, and I think that's probably the most likely. If there's any candidate for it, I think the technology is the most likely of those avenues. But I just don't want to believe that we're there yet. I think that I really, in my heart of hearts, I know that there's a lot of evil out there. I mean, Klaus Schwab, I agree with you that man is like, he's every villain you've ever read about embodied into one old man.
One old man that just wants to see this country burn, period.
Exactly. Well, in the world, really.
I guess so.
He wants us to all eat bugs. If you don't believe me, you can go look this up. It's not even conspiracy theory anymore, folks. He said it right on the video.
No,
yeah, the devil doesn't hide. He says it right out in plain sight, man. And where are we doing on time, Cam? How are we? Are we into 10.5 minutes? Got about 10.5 minutes left in our first hour. Yeah. Okay.
I do have a quick question. I don't know if you've seen this or how you feel about it, but how do you feel about Episcopalians being okay with having gay ministers?
You're asking me?
Yes, sir.
Well, God didn't make Adam and Steve. He made Adam and Eve. And it's just, homosexuality is an abomination to God. Romans 1 says, it gives them over to a depraved mind. That's not to be unkind. That's just flat out biblical. So not only do I disagree with gay priests, I disagree with the homosexual lifestyle, period.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you can't still love those individuals.
Yeah, it's not
and care
hate.
for them. Yeah.
It's not hate.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it gets misconstrued a lot of times in modern society. Because we actually, my wife has a TikTok on her phone, as I don't have it, and we've actually been searching for some TikToks for Alan to react to.
Yes. Usually I'm the one searching.
On his show, and he's been dying to do some reactions. And so in that search, we've seen a lot of this, and this misconception. Go ahead.
And look at the Methodists; they just went through a big split over this. And so the World Methodist, which is ironic, is more conservative. So the World Methodist denomination is where the conservatives are, and the actual Methodists are the ones that have embraced homosexual pastoring and homosexual lifestyle. But if you go back to the Wesley brothers who founded the Wesleyan and the Methodist movement, They were called the haystack meetings. That's back when they preached on horseback, and they took the gospel west. And the Methodists were a blue-collar denomination. And it's actually the Methodists that took the gospel pretty much shore to shore and took it towards California. But as soon as they became white-collar and affluent, they started leaning more liberal. And then the Baptists came along and became the blue-collar denomination. And then as they started becoming more affluent, see, the problem is a lot of folks get worried about money, and the church got so much into the ABCs, attendance, baptisms, and cash. And they started making all their decisions based on building buildings and trying to draw crowds and maintaining the circus. Because see, what if you're a good ringmaster in a circus, whatever you do to get the crowds, you got to keep doing to keep them coming. So that horse and pony show better be good.
And that's what when you said the ABCs, attendance, baptism, and cash, that's what made me think about the Episcopalians saying, all right, let's bring in some gay talent. Let's bring in some lesbians who are going to be ministers and such. And that's exactly what I was thinking, right? So we got to crank up attendance. How do we crank up attendance? Let's try to get people, let's hope the people we have are going to be tolerant and they're going to stay because they believe in the faith. But let's go ahead and try to grab the 1.5% or the 2%. Baptisms, obviously you get them in here. We try to keep them here. And then cash, of course, let's hope some of those rainbow dollars cash and keep getting passed around.
Yeah. And I was going to say,
get some of that government money. I don't know if you know, the government offered churches money to help make your payrolls. But if you took that money, there's always a string attached. We didn't need to. We didn't shut down. And, of course, our offerings went up throughout the thing because folks started giving to us. I had, because of my radio show, I've gotten responses from all 50 states, over 14 countries. We get donations from all over. I've got one couple in Florida alone that's given over $20,000 to our church because they believe in what we do. I was writing letters, religious exemption letters for folks in Canada that didn't want to take the shot because their churches had shut down. My point is this: when the pandemic was over, so many churches had declined. I think that's when, to go back to his Episcopalian, I think they started making desperate moves to try to keep the doors open. So they thought, hey, we better just lower our standards and let other things happen that maybe we wouldn't have, so we could keep the doors open and maybe corral some people to coming. But again, it goes back to the horse and pony show. Whatever you do to get them, you got to do to keep them. And if it's not based on the word of God and being people of faith and honor, then after the show gets old or repetitive, they're gone.
Yeah, it's like absolute power absolutely corrupts.
It does.
Absolute power absolutely corrupts. And I don't know what I was going to say with the TikTok stuff. When it comes to that, man, like it was like an echo chamber there. That's what you find on that platform. They all equate. No, I say they all. A majority equates disagreement with hatred or even violence. They not all, but a majority equates the idea that I disagree with what you do in your life as I don't like you. I can still like you. We may even be able to hang out and watch a movie together. It's cool, dude. But I can still disagree with you. My wife likes to put mayonnaise on cheeseburgers. I'm not going to kick her out tomorrow. I see that as a sin. I think it's wrong.
No, your wife's got the holy juice there, brother. You put a little mayonnaise on there, a little ketchup, and some mustard. Just the right portions and a pickle.
Forget about it.
Well, the show was going to be an hour and a half long. No, I was just going to say, sorry, the big grin on my face the whole time was I was sitting here thinking, wonder what it's like the day the minister walks up front in front of everybody, on Sunday. He gets ready to do his sermon. He looks around and he's like, today we're going to talk about the travesty of Sodom and Gomorrah. And someone nudges him he's looking in the crowd. There's little rainbow flags and rainbow patches everywhere. He's like, not today. Yeah. He's got to have a backup sermon.
He's like, do you know what month it is? Oh, man.
I'm saying
Feel bad for that guy.
it's the only way they're going to keep him. He's like, Sodom and no, we're going to talk about something else. That part of the Bible doesn't exist.
Sodom and some guy. Oh my goodness. That's the way it goes. I guess.
That's exactly how it went.
Oh man. I think we're right about there on the cusp of getting into the politics portion. Yeah, we're close enough. Macil, how you feel about that? You want to get into some politics?
Yeah, let's get politics, but if you'll excuse me, I just got to get my extension cord. My phone's getting close to dying. So keep talking. I'm listening.
All right, go ahead. Yeah, pop us back over here, and we'll get this article going. So hopefully you can still hear us really well. The first article tonight comes from the Post Millennial. Now this goes back to the point that Macil was making earlier. This was breaking for us it was yesterday, but for you it'll be June 1st, 2023. Target stock downgraded by JP Morgan after sales tank over Pride merchandise for kids. Was that a surprise to anybody?
Nope.
Was it? Okay.
No.
On Thursday, JP Morgan downgraded Target's stock from overweight to neutral. Interesting choice of verbiage.
Right.
As the shopping giant experienced its longest losing streak in its stock in 23 years. I'll get the words out soon enough.
English.
Yeah, it's hard today. According to Market Watch, Target's stock ended Wednesday's session down 2.2%. This marks the 9th straight day of decline, and it is the company's longest losing streak on its stock since an 11-year stretch in February of 2000. It's a long time ago. I was a sophomore in high school. Wednesday's stock closing price, I don't know why I had to go with that. Anyway, Wednesday's stock closing price also marked the lowest since August 11th, 2020. That was during a little time where some bricks were being thrown and some fires were being started.
We don't
in
talk
towns.
about that time.
Anyway, in pre-market trading on Thursday, Target shares fell an additional 1.7%. The stock has fallen 12.2% so far in 2023. Charlie Kirk tweeted out, he said, JP Morgan just downgraded Target's stock after its longest losing streak in 23 years, citing too many concerns rising. Happy Pride Month, Target.
So
Yes, Lou.
all this is going because of all those clothes they're selling for the gays and all that,
Oh,
right?
and the kids.
And,
I mean,
and the kids.
basically conservatives said, we're going to do to you what you're doing to little boys' junk. We're going to tuck you away.
I know there was a lot of people that complained about it,
Yeah.
and they took the clothes and put it to the back
Yeah.
somewhere, so not too many straight people will see it. Only gay people. But is this going to happen to Myers too? That also selling?
That's such a bad idea. And then all of those people are going to have to filter through the entire store. Just put it up front. Comes to the door. They only move in 10 feet. They walk back out.
Make
guys,
it a parking cell.
Oh, go ahead, Basil.
Hey, it wasn't just the sexual things. It was the satanic symbols.
Yeah.
That female that decided she wanted to be a male and, taking the male hormone shots and all that stuff. It had the horns. Her name, Eric.
I love the sound effects, by the way.
She designed, I had to do that back when they would ban you for saying ivermectin or anything. I'd have to do the, anyway, I'm known for my whistles. But this lady that thinks she's a dude created all these satanic symbol shirts. And all these moms were going in and dads doing TikToks and Instagrams, pulling up Target merchandise and going nuts about it. And that's what I think pushed that movement. And that's how they now Anheuser-Busch is down as of today, 27 billion. Target as of today is down 13 billion. And Elon Musk put out a statement this morning saying that he believes that in the near future, that shareholders will be able to sue Target's executives for malfeasance because they were so reckless, knowing what was happening with Anheuser-Busch, pushing these things. But if you look, guys, at the satanic, the horns and the satanic worship, and when you go through Target, they've got these circles with stars. Those are actually the satanic pendulum. because they've got other merchandise that shows that. So Target is going way out there, Luciferian.
Yeah, they even have those enamel pins I seen on it was on the little Facebook ads for Target, and it was an enamel pin, like one of those like you put on your lapel.
Yeah.
And it said Satan loves you, or Satan doesn't discriminate, or something like that. It was, and I was like, excuse me, he doesn't like.
That used to be a
me very
warning.
well.
That used to be a warning, right? Satan doesn't discriminate. Make sure you're not one of those people, right? Like that was kind of one of those things. Like Satan doesn't care; he wants all of you. He needs all of you.
Yeah, he wants you to give yourself over to him as opposed to God. That's for sure. And
guys, that's one of the statues inside of Target.
Wow, I hadn't seen that yet.
No, I haven't.
That's on my nightstand.
Make sure you guys comment on what you guys think about this too, because this is I think this is a national thing.
The satanic circles the kids were standing in, the
Wow.
little circles with the pendulum.
I never seen that one.
I didn't see that either. That looks like
Here's
they're on the
pajama
shirts.
set with the Luciferian, the pajama outfit.
I did see those.
Didn't they used to call that Halloween?
I did.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and they just got a lot of crazy stuff out there.
Wow.
And here's one of the stores. I mean, one of the shirts.
Wow.
I did see that
I
one.
never seen that.
Those straight up, like just selling the beast.
They're like right there. Just put it right on. Printed vinyl.
How'd you like to buy that for your little girl? Say, hey, Merry Christmas.
I don't think so. I mean,
Now people say, isn't this Halloween? No, this is sold year round. That black outfit, and notice the little horns there.
Right.
it's and not just the satanic stuff there, Macil, but like the fact that it's kids that they're marketing it to. That's my biggest problem. Like, if an adult chooses to be evil, they're doing it to themselves. And hopefully they'll watch a show like this, and they'll turn themselves over to the Lord. But if they don't, they're grown and they can make their own choices if they want to go on to the fiery pit or not. But if they're a child, this should never be impressed on a child. There should not be anything such as tuck friendly construction that they said on there. Is that about right, Alan?
No, it was. Sorry.
And I shared a video with you. It was the first time that I said that. I was like, I
think heard it.
No,
really?
First time I heard it was on episode 12 of your show, but which was interesting. If you guys haven't seen episode 12 of The Laughing Libertarian, you need to go back and see that. It's a lot of fun because I was a guest on there. But we just could watch this whole catalog. It's all fun. No kids in the room though.
No kids.
But to further my point, like the idea that little kids are being marketed this idea of you need this tuck friendly.
You need tuck friendly. You need binding suits, so you don't show off any of your development. You need Satan on your chest. You need these different things. Like that's insane. It's crazy.
It is insane. And when people use kids to advertise their products or anything like that, they gotta be evil.
Yeah,
they're evil. Using kids for stuff like this. This is not right. Kids shouldn't be learning these.
Yeah, and it was the first time that he's
Louis right on target.
Oh wow, did you get that pun in right? He snuck it right in there. Yeah, but the idea that Alex Stein was funny for the first time in his life. That video, I'm sorry. I know Alan and I both agree. We don't particularly care for Alex Stein too much. I don't know how you feel about him, Macil, but that video, I think, made a lot of people's minds up when they saw him go in as a grown man and show how employees absolutely did not respond the way they should have with a grown man putting on a child's swimsuit that was, had that tuck friendly construction, and then just perusing or parading around in the store in that manner.
Oh, his little videos, I think, have opened up people's eyes. And this was looking for. Elon Musk takes a stand on Target boycott. He goes on to say that conservatives blame companies for bowing to the dictates of progressives by embracing the values of gender equality, the fight against racism and anti-Semitism, and the battle for inclusion and diversity. These matters are often summed up in the acronym ESG, Environmental, Social, and Corporate Governance Policy. And Elon Musk is calling them out for this. And of course, they have the DEI, you've heard of that, diversity, inclusion, blah, blah, blah. Well, Chick-fil-A, I guess they capitulated.
Yep.
And they
saw that this week.
Yeah.
But it goes back to BlackRock. When you go back and do the research, BlackRock now owning 10 trillion of the global debt, because in 2008, when the first bank crashed, they bought up a lot of the bank when Bush was president.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 2012, and then again in 2023 here, it was BlackRock that bailed out all these banks, and it's just made them more powerful. But for their money, what they're insisting is they're very anti-Christian.
Yeah.
And you guys may know this, but did you know BlackRock is the only financial institution, American, if you will, that has been allowed to trade evenly with China. They've embraced China years ago, whereas everyone else had to go through exchange processes. They were granted a special process to go through the Bank of China. Well, you may know this, but 79% of all of our Congress from the last session were dual citizens of another country. Dianne Feinstein is a dual citizen with China. Mitch McConnell's wife is from China, and her sister is the executive vice president for the Bank of China. And then you got the Pelosi's. If you just go look up the McConnells, the Pelosi's, and the Feinsteins, their financial dealings with China, it makes Biden look like a cupcake. That's the problem. I think Biden's going to be the fall guy, because it's both sides. I think Biden will eventually go down, especially the FBI just capitulated today and offered over the documentation.
He's certainly good at falling.
That's what I was going to say. Whether it's a bike, a stair,
or he gives that song "Free Falling" a whole new name, a whole new image. But you wait. I think Biden will be the scapegoat for the politicians, if that really is Biden. I mean, you've probably seen the ears and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But by the way, are any of you guys Q people?
We've talked about that in the past, and I talked about how people get tripped up by Q. I won't knock someone if they want to go in on Q, if that's how they want to go. That's the route they want to take. But I will tell you, you're gonna have to exercise better discernment on that. And the reason people go in on Q so hard is because they start with this little grain of truth, just like any deceiver. They start with this little grain of truth, and then so like this happens, therefore, it's an old saying, because it's true. Like when you're reading a storybook, sometimes they'll jump a few years in the characters' lives because they know that you have already believed this part, so you're going to believe the rest of it. And that's what's happening with Q, is that since you believe this part and you know this part is actually true, and you can go back and fact check it. It's hard to say. Go back and fact check it. Then the rest of this must be true, right? Because they're right on this part. So no, I am not a Q guy. I almost went down that rabbit hole until I went back and really took a good hard look at it and said, no, this ain't for me. But to further your point on the BlackRock thing, and I'm sure Louis will agree with me on this. BlackRock's got that kind of power where they're essentially like the world's financial mob.
Oh yeah. Here's my point. The Q thing, it could possibly. Oh, did I lose you?
No, we're here.
We're here. I was finishing up a point, but Cam was asking me a question, so I wanted to make sure that we didn't lose you at all.
Oh, okay.
But I was just say they're like the world's financial mob, and it's just like, you know about the mob, right, Lou? A little bit. So they go into the local shop and, hey, this is a real nice shop you got right here. It'd be a shame if we smashed it up a little bit, huh? Why don't you pay us some protection money, right? And that's what they do with the banks and all these other financial institutions. That's why they've been allowed to, I believe, because they've done it with the people in government as well. That's why they've been able to get that free pass on operating with China. You think that about sums it up?
They did that with Chick-fil-A. They had they called sit-ins. The Antifa movement and the Black Lives Matter would go into stores and they would take hundreds of people and lay down in the floor and refuse to leave. Well, they know Christian customers didn't want to step on people, so they just left quietly. Well, that's one of the reasons that Chick-fil-A capitulated, because they were promising they were going to do sit-ins and laydowns, is what they call them, in Chick-fil-A stores across the nation. And what's sad is when Rahm Emanuel tried to call to boycott Chick-fil-A when he was the mayor of Chicago. I don't know if you guys remember, in a liberal city, Chicago, it was wrapped around. The people of Chicago supported Chick-fil-A, and then Mike Huckabee did the Chick-fil-A Day, and man, nationwide, we supported them.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't understand why Chick-fil-A capitulated and didn't say, hey, they should have told us more about the bullying that they were being done, but they went ahead and cowered. And I hate that. I love Chick-fil-A, but it's no longer a special restaurant to me. I used to go out of my way to sit in lines. I would buy the gift cards. Now it's just another option of many.
I love Chick-fil-A. I like going over there.
It is good food, but man, I tell you what, if they did a lay down or a sit in where I'm going to get my sandwich, I'm not going to step on you, but I'm going to step around you. You're in my way, bro. You're not going to get between this fat man and his meal. I'll tell you that right now.
That's my point. If I
move
known that, I'd be going down to Chick-fil-A and stepping between them, saying, "Hey, excuse me," not being mean, saying God loves you, but I'm getting me some chicken stuff, and you guys sit there all you want, and I'll drop a fry or two that makes you feel good.
That's right.
I'm getting some food.
I hear that.
You're making Cam lose it in the producer's desk right now. But, you talked about people being cowardly. And speaking of cowardly, I'd say that's where the president is at right now. Can we all agree on that? President's pretty cowardly. And that leads us into our second article of the night. It comes from the Daily Wire. Indiana Attorney General leads 18-state lawsuit challenging Biden's borders policies. Finally, somebody's stepping up and seeing the error of their ways. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita is leading.
Good dude, I've met him. Pretty good dude.
Yeah, very nice guy. Strong handshake, by the way. Is leading an 18-state lawsuit against the Biden administration over its handling of the border crisis. The lawsuit specifically focuses on a new policy called the circumvention of lawful pathways. That's a pretty fancy title there.
Look at that. Those kind of words coming from Indiana. I'm proud of you guys.
Not only that, but coming from the Republican side of things.
Right?
Yeah. Because we're usually terrible with titles for things. Which the Department of Homeland Security says intends to expand safe and orderly pathways for migrants to lawfully enter the United States. The rule was put in place following the expiration of Title 42 in early May and led to a massive influx at the southern border that the Biden administration has struggled to contain, to say the least. The lawsuit argues that the policy, which is also referred to as the circumvention rule, does not attempt to resolve the border issue, but rather, quote, tries to define the problem away by recharacterizing what would be illegal crossings as lawful pathways. It also claims that the circumvention rule is a half measure and a smokescreen that is riddled with exceptions before going to charge that it is part of the Biden administration's border effort to obfuscate. That's a new word for me. The true situation at the southwest border. The lawsuit specifically charges that purpose of circumvention rule is to encourage an increasing number of migrants to use the CBP One app to make bogus asylum claims, all while avoiding the bad optics of crowds of illegal aliens lining up along the border. Don't leave me hanging, guys. What we got?
Well, look, I'll tell you what I found here. Did you know there's 18 now attorney generals from 18 different states fighting back against Biden's rule involving the crisis at the border? And Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey's office has joined the 18-state coalition in filing suit that takes aim at the Biden administration proposed changes at the border. This was June 2nd of 2023. So there may have been more. I don't know. I just it's been a few days, but that's 18 states that have attorney generals battling. And I guess, Florida sent 800 National Guard to Texas to help battle the border. And that's what's going to happen because governors actually control their National Guards.
Yeah, Texas. Yeah, Texas has their own. Yeah.
And Texas actually has a special trained border unit. And I don't know if you watched the interview with that guy, the commander, but he's calling it an invasion. He says this is an intentional invasion of our country. But look what the GOP did. They went after Paxton, and here's the thing that pisses me off of the GOP. Look how fast they moved on Paxton. Okay, and what Paxton was doing was he was going against a year ago Texas said that the transition sex surgeries, cutting off kids' genitalias, was illegal, and he found child abuse laws to back up those rulings. Well, he starts going after them, and he made fun of the Texas guy, was drunk on the floor, and he should have. Well, they came after Paxton, and look at all this bull crap. He's been elected 3 terms as attorney general by the people of Texas, and they just impeached him. See if you guys now, as much as happening at the border, as much as happening with banking and all these other things that they look like they're in quicksand in slow motion. Look how they took care of one of their own, a strong conservative champion. They got on Paxton like white on rice, and within weeks impeached him. Does that tell you guys how slow they're? I think intentionally, they could fix the border tomorrow, but they don't want to. The GOP's at fault. This isn't just a Biden issue.
Well, on the border right now, who's really running it is the cartels. They're really running the borders, and they are robbing these people. They killing these people. They're raping the women, doing whatever they want. And then what happened to all those kids that came down here and all of a sudden disappeared? What happened to them? Where did they
sex
go?
Trafficking, yeah. Likely sex trafficking because they can't find them, right? You had something else?
85,000 kids are missing. And
Yes.
that was a whistleblower. 85,000 kids are missing under the Biden administration that have crossed into our country. And then you may have heard McDonald's got fined. Over 609 children underage were caught working at McDonald's throughout the South. These guys partly own 69 McDonald's stores. 600 and some children underage were working things like deep fryers, which is illegal. And the kids weren't getting paid anything. Okay? So what's that tell you?
McDonald's food should be cheaper.
What my point is this isn't just Biden. This is that both parties are in favor of this crap, man. Because as fast as they moved on Paxton, because he pissed off some people, in the upper echelon by calling them out for no different things. Look how slow they're moving. They could move faster, man. They could get stuff done. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think the GOP and the DNC, I think it's a uniparty in a lot of ways. And the few independent stars like Bobart, I like Bobart from Colorado.
Yeah, we do too.
Matt Gaetz. There's a few shining, Louis Gomer. There's a few shining stars, but they just kind of get lost. Look at McCarthy and the budget deal he just did. And then him and Schumer are calling the Prime Minister of India to come speak. Okay? Fix the border. Look at all the things that they're throwing out at us. They just don't want to. They don't want to fix it. They could.
Yeah, well, Trump campaigned on border security. You had something out there, Alan?
The rule of politics is you never fix something you can run on. Okay, that is the rule, right? You push some beans one way, not all the way. You push some beans back the other way, not all the way. Never fix a problem that you can run on. And that's why you never see things get fixed. And if it is, it's only fixed 75% of the way. Because then the next person who steps in can fix it in the opposite direction.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And I agree with when Macil was talking about the uniparty. And I think that's why we need more people running on these independent tickets, these libertarian tickets, these people that aren't subscribing to a specific party necessarily. Maybe they're running on policies alone. And I know that it's going to be hard to shine a light on those individuals, but they are out there. There are people that are willing to step up. And maybe Alan, you gonna wear a cape?
Maybe one day. Maybe.
One day, yeah. I mean, you're at the age you could run.
Oh, don't say that.
It's announced right here, folks. Now
I'm going home.
Hey, Alan, I got a question for Alan.
Yes.
Let me throw a name at you. I think if this person ran as a libertarian presidential candidate, this could shock the world. Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, I could see it. I don't. I mean, I definitely could see it. Unfortunately, I have to say I'm a downtrodden pessimist when it comes to a libertarian becoming president. I want us to win some governor slots first and see what we can do from there. But yeah, I mean, Tulsi could definitely turn some heads.
Well, Jesse Ventura, look what he did. It's Minnesota, right?
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he gave us all an idea of what an independent kind of go against the grain politician could do. And, him and Trump are cut from the same mold, loud, don't tell me what to do mentality. But it's hard. And then look what they did to Kerry Lake.
Yeah.
I mean, Arizona, what a steal. I mean, that to me is even more obvious than the 2020 election was almost.
I mean, fair and safe. We gotta make sure that we
always fair and safe.
It's always fair and safe. We have to make sure that we all these elections in modern day, if they're electronic, then they're definitely fair and safe.
I just hear Ian. I hear Ian Crossland right now. Open source software. Open the software for everybody.
Yeah. He's over on Timcast. I don't know if you've ever seen that show or not, Macil, but
oh yeah, I like Timcast.
Yeah, good moderate guys over there, and I may lean to the right of them sometimes, but I think they're really good guys, and maybe one of these days they'll cross pollinate with all of us. But there's some things that are happening with a man named Hunter right now, and I didn't know how to really transition that. But
okay.
Our third and final article of the night comes from Red State, and it says, Hunter Biden's defense against possible gun charge will have you rolling on the floor. Laughing, I think, maybe. So sometimes a story comes across you're welcome, Alan, that's so unbelievable that I have to double check the link to make sure it's not a parody site. Parody is becoming reality now. So I messaged Alan the other day. I said, we can't even make it up anymore. We can't even make jokes anymore because it's reality.
Well, I was thinking when you said it may have you rolling on the floor, if you see Hunter rolling on the floor, either he's just done the crack or he's trying to find the crack that he dropped.
Or the Parmesan cheese.
Oh, sorry. Parmesan cheese.
But that happened on this happened on Thursday morning when a new report dropped detailing how Hunter Biden will defend himself against a possible gun charge brought to him by the DOJ, Department of Justice, for those who don't know that acronym. Hunter Biden is facing multiple charges related to alleged tax fraud and lying on a gun purchase form. A charging decision is expected to occur soon. Through the Department of Justice has continued to slow walk the final decision for reasons that some suspect are political. The president's troubled son swore under penalty of prosecution on the aforementioned form that he was not using drugs at the time of the gun purchase. This is his case. That has been proven false, both by information from Hunter Biden's laptop, the laptop from hell. I don't know if you remember the laptop from hell, folks. But also it shows him using drugs during that period of time via admission by his own father.
I'm just literally like,
President
could you
United
imagine they're looking him right in the face going, we've cross-referenced all this material. Like, here's this picture. Here's the camera of you walking in to buy it with a joint in your mouth. Here's the powder from where you did the line next to the pen.
Yeah. I didn't do that. That's not me. That's the clone of me. Right, Lou?
Yeah, this is. I'm telling you, the Democrats are really getting dumb.
Yeah.
Because
Good save.
they're looking for a loophole, and they finally think they found one by using the NRA for Biden to get away. They're always looking for some loophole to get that boy out of trouble.
Yeah, well, with all that said, Lou, they said you may want to sit down for what Hunter Biden's defense will be because it will have you laughing out loud. According to Politico, if faced with a gun charge, Hunter Biden's defense team is going to argue that banning drug users from buying guns is unconstitutional under the Second Amendment.
That's funny.
Isn't it?
I cannot wait to get drunk and go drive a heavy vehicle.
I can see all the
Or
drug
trucks
dealers.
after I'm high.
I can see all the drug dealers doing crack and showing their gun at the same time. Yeah.
And you have to love that Politico, a far-left news outlet, is suddenly like, yeah, these conservatives might have a point about the Second Amendment. The moment it could benefit a member of the corrupt Biden family. Still, one can't help but notice the irony here. Joe Biden is currently in a push to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Both moves are clearly unconstitutional. But now his son is going to argue that keeping drug-addled degenerates from buying guns violates the Second Amendment. How does that circle get squared? Of course, that assumes Joe Biden is ever asked about the contradiction, and he probably won't be. What do you say, Macil?
Well, I think you go back to the Anthony Weiner laptop. I mean, all the pretty much all the police officers that saw it committed supposed suicide. I don't think look what they've done to all those that have been truth tellers, from Snowden to the WikiLeaks guy. Look at the software guy. His name escapes me right now.
Well,
supposedly
WikiLeaks is Assange. Yeah.
Yeah, Assange, and then the McAfee.
McAfee. His building was just mysteriously just collapsed into the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, if you watched his Dead Man Switch videos, I mean, he had on his shoulder that tattoo. I won't whack myself.
Yeah.
And
he didn't reinforce his firewall.
but you look at from McAfee's Dead Man Switch drops, the WikiLeaks, the Snowdens, to Anthony Weiner's laptop, and now to Hunter Biden's. I think we can safely say and look, Epstein's list. I mean, it's more protected than the nuclear codes.
Oh yeah.
There's obviously an underworld of filthy, nasty scumbags. They protect each other.
You got something there, Lou? I seen you raise your hand, so I was just making sure that I get you a chance to.
No, what I want to say is that if Biden gets away with this by using the NRA, do that means that every crackhead now is going to be carrying guns, and they don't have to work hard for their crack? They just come up to you with a gun and just take your money?
Yeah, they can have one, but we can't.
Yeah, especially in Chicago.
Did you have something else there, Macil? I thought I maybe heard you.
Oh no, I agree with Louis there. It's ridiculous because it's rules for thee and not for me. We've got two-tier justice system. Hillary Clinton has faced really no condemnation. Her lawyer Sussman admitted under federal court about the dossier being paid for and dreamed up by Hillary. Yeah. Well, then the Durham report came out and completely excoriated them, which if you go back and look at the Horowitz report from the Inspector General and Mueller, all those things pretty much, but have they really apologized to Trump? No,
they're not going to. They're not going to. And it's like, Trump was saying it all along. He was like, Russia, Russia, Russia. They got this hoax going on for me, and I'm telling you right now, I didn't do it. But they did get this dossier bought and paid for, and I believed him from jump because it was just too sincere. Like, you know, I may not always agree with Donald Trump, but I do hope that he. Personally, I hope that he is the candidate that we have coming up next. I think he's the one that's going to take all the slings and arrows, but coming up in this next election. But that happened to him more than once. They know that he's working hard for the people, and maybe he's getting it wrong here and there, like we said. You know, talk about the Abraham Accords, but he
gets bad advice. Is my problem. Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, he also. Jared Kushner's the one that got Steve Bannon fired, and Mike Pence is the one that got General Flynn fired. Well, who do we listen to now as conservatives? Steve Bannon and General Flynn. If Trump could go back, I guarantee you he would have kept those two in his cabinet.
Well, and potentially has another shot at it.
Did you know who Trump's first pick for VP was?
I don't.
It wasn't Mike Pence. It was General Flynn.
That would have been a really great pick.
And at the GOP convention, do you remember Kasich would not come to the convention? It was in Ohio, and he refused to come do the opening welcome as the host governor.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. Well, the plan was this. In the GOP rules, if you can't get consensus on the first two rounds, then you can make nominations from the floor. And you can nominate someone for president to represent the GOP that never went through the primaries. And you can go pull this up. There's an email line, and there's actually posters for Mike Pence for president and Paul Ryan as his vice president.
Ooh, that'd have been terrible.
And what they did
made,
was they pressured Trump to make Mike Pence his vice president. They needed a rhino inside his cabinet that would be a traitor. And the first thing that Mike Pence did, he helped set up General Flynn, who was Trump's first pick as VP and someone he trusted, because Flynn came from the NSA. He knows where all the bodies are buried. Savvy?
Yeah.
So what happened? They got Flynn out early, and then they got Steve Bannon out. Think about that. And they got Manafort out. The people that were really helping Trump win, they got them out, and then he was stuck with like Jeff Sessions, who was a wuss. You know, and then they brought in Barr, who was a traitor. I mean, he's a great guy, but he's not Jesus.
No, definitely not. And
that's my point. He got betrayed, man. And then Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House, and what a turncoat he turned out to be.
So, certainly, but
I could get jacked up on Paul Ryan. I don't like that guy.
Well, and I agree, but I think if anybody's showing the strongest chance of winning this 2024 election. I mean, right now anyway. I mean, it's still early. You know, there could be someone out there that, you know, like Vivek might just show up one day and be somebody that everybody gets behind. I have no idea. But right now, I think Trump looks like the strongest candidate for the Republican Party. But he's seen so many attacks just for trying to implement policies. But we had $1.87 gas under the guy. You know, we had policies that seemingly worked. And there was a lot of winning happening for our country again. People were starting to find pride in their country, like and not like we had
$1 gas under Bush, and everybody still hates him. So,
well, the Bush just turned out to be pretty deceitful, though.
Yeah.
Hey, dollar gas under W. I'm just saying.
I tell you, under W, that No Child Left Behind, what deception that was. Getting all the school systems on one government control, that led into all these problems we're having now with literature and hiding things from parents. That was all brought in by the Bushes with that No Child Left Behind bull crap.
No doubt.
Yeah, certainly. Macil, it's been good chatting with you, man. But we're getting down to I think we're in our last few seconds here. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a closing prayer, and then we'll do some outros, and we'll get the heck out of Dodge on this show.
Hey, I want to thank you guys, and I just want to remind your listeners, the Macil Duncan radio show, 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can find us on Nuga Radio Network. You can say, Alexa, find Nuga Radio, and they know how to find us. Or you can use your Siri, find Nuga Radio, and whatever's playing at the time. Or if you just go to nugaradio.com, there's a blue button, you push it, and my show's 3 to 6 p.m. It's replayed 9 to 12, 9 p.m. to 12 midnight, and then again in the morning, 3 to 6 a.m. And we've got several sites, the Patriot Pastor page on True Social and on Facebook, and the Macil Duncan page and the Macil Pastor page. A shameless plug there. Can I pray for you guys?
Could I first bring up that I am honored to hear you and hear you speak, and it was an honor to hear everything you had to say, and thank you for getting on the show with us.
Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, we're in this together, man. We're in the foxhole, man. It's a point where you got to drop the denominational labels and some of the other things, and just say, hey, I got my brother on my right, my brother on my left, and it's dig in the heels and fight time, or this nation is gone.
We're gonna fight like hell.
Yeah, yeah, because we're fighting hell itself. I mean, you can smell the breath of the devil. But let me close this out.
All right.
Heavenly Father, I pray for Joshua. I pray for Louis. I pray for Alan and Super Cam that's in behind the camera there, Lord. He's been patient all night. Bless their families. Bless their extended families. Keep them safe. There's trolls out there that love to troll us and be unkind. And Lord, let us continue. Just tell truth, inspire people, encourage people. And when we screw up and mess up, admit it and move on. And God, I hope and pray we'll think about these 7 things. If we'll practice in 2 Peter chapter 1, if we'll practice these things, God, we won't stumble as men and as a nation. I pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. That was the man that brought the message today, our special guest, the Patriot pastor, Macil Duncan. He's already done his shameless plug, so we don't have to do that again. And then across from me, once again, you know him, you love him, the host of the Laughing Libertarian, Alan McFarland.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And Macil, man, awesome. You really killed it today. Well, really appreciate you, man. And
hey,
appreciate
Alan, have me on your show, man. And I want to hear the true Alan. They said you've become a beast on your show.
Yeah, I kind of let it fly. And yeah, anybody want to go check out the Laughing Libertarian? I would appreciate it. Of course, all of us at Revolver Broadcast, that one, Revolver Broadcasting. We would appreciate you checking out all of our shows. But I don't want to keep plugging. Thank you for having me on the show.
Certainly.
Plug them all.
But while we're talking about shows, Louis got a show also. It's called Rodriguez Rants. And it's hosted by this man, Louis Rodriguez. We love this man. He's fantastic. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me. And I'm glad to be here.
And man, I think you brought the thunder today. I really enjoyed some of the comments you brought down today. And you out there, tell us what you thought about what Louis brought to the table today, because we want to show Louis some love. He's one of my favorite people in this world, and show Macil some love. Go over there and follow his Facebook page and make sure that you're checking out his radio show. I'm a fan. I know these guys are probably about to become fans too.
Absolutely.
I love going over and taking a listen, and hopefully he'll let me call in here in the future. And
oh yeah, I've already got plans. I'm going to have you call in and be a part of the show. I don't do video like you guys, so mine's a call in, but I have folks on. And hey, by the way, we didn't get to talk on it real quick, is the Brunson brothers. I had him on my show a couple of days ago. They're going before the Supreme Court possibly again. So let's keep the Brunson brothers in our prayers.
Brunson brothers. I'll remember that. Brunson brothers. Mental note, Brunson brothers. Well, it's going to be on the internet forever here in about 2 hours. So, but to get down to the nitty gritty here, I'm your host of the Faith, Family, and Politics.
Why are we so bad at this today?
I think it's because we had the week off.
We're starstruck.
Yeah, we're starstruck by Macil.
It's your fault.
Now, I've been your host of Faith, Family, and Politics, Joshua Cummins, reminding you to stay in trouble. We'll see you next week.
God bless you all.